Honourable Speaker, respected members of Parliament, today I rise on behalf of the Mkhonto weSizwe Party under the leadership of President Zuma and our party leader, Dr. John Hlophe. Honourable Speaker, I believe this bill, in fact this vote, perpetuates economic inequalities and fails to address the needs of the majority of South Africans, particularly the most disadvantaged communities in the rural areas and the poorest of the poor, one of those being Shawelo. Honourable Speaker, there are some that refer to themselves as builders and as the Progressive Caucus, led by Mkhonto weSizwe, as breakers. Now, how is it that we are referred to as breakers when the same president led the breakdown of the same state entities that he is nestling in the presidency today? How is it? The only conclusion I can give is that they refer to us as breakers because they know, as the incoming government, we are going to be the breaker of service delivery records. They refer to us as breakers because we are going to break the barriers of poverty that have continued to impoverish our people for the past 30 years because of this constitution that is unconstitutional. Now, as the howlers continue, I'll continue to be progressive.
Speaker.
The Speaker at the podium, please take your chair. There is a point of order.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I'm rising in terms of Rule 66. We've been abused, Honourable Deputy Speaker, by members of the ANC. We've been listening to their leaders saying a lot of nothing here, but we've been paying attention, and we are not doing justice, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We are not protecting the Speaker there. Can you kindly protect the Speaker?
Honourable Member, I have been listening, and the Speaker at the podium was quite audible, and there have been, let's say, some noise from all the sides of the House, so your point is not sustained. Speaker at the podium, please continue.
Nice try. Mr. President, 30 years ago, you were part of the same negotiations that led to the formation of the Government of National Unity off the back of a crisis, which was apartheid. In the same negotiations, being the chief negotiator with these racists, you led the conclusion of a constitution that we today find ourselves with, that continues to favor the few and continues to exclude the downtrodden people. It is for exactly this reason, Mr. President, that we are calling for the change of this constitution that you negotiated 30 years ago and that continues to protect the few. Today, Mr. President, 30 years down the line, you emerge as the chief negotiator for another government of so-called national unity. Now, wouldn't you say, Mr. President, that that being the case with your emergence is in effect a perpetuation of what has transpired when what started 30 years ago? Are we saying, Mr. President, that with this so-called Government of National Unity, which you've also negotiated on behalf of the people that rejected yourselves, will change anything that has not been addressed in the past 30 years? My answer is a big, resounding no. Now, Mr. President, we refer to issues of water in this country. That same constitution 30 years ago protected the rights of certain individuals, the few, who today have got the rights to dams. And guess what? Unfortunately for Minister Mkhuni, when he was Minister of Water and Sanitation, he tried to take this to the courts to institute water reforms. And guess what happened, Mr. President? It was the same constitution that blocked the advancement of people having access to water because of irrigation rights that were given during apartheid to an individual that today owns a dam. How can that be for sustainability, and how can we transform our people's lives with that being the case, Mr. President? Mr. President, over the past 10 years, there's been no beneficiation for our people. In actual fact, it has been at its lowest in the history of this country. No beneficiation in terms of minerals, and no beneficiation in terms of social justice. This is the reality we're faced with, Mr. President. But as long as we continue to have a constitution that marginalizes our people, we will not be able to advance organic growth and change for our people, Mr. President. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to touch on just a couple of issues here as I close off. ESCOM, Mr. President. When President Zuma, that you are referring to, left office, had 85 billion rands of debt. Today, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, it is sitting at 160 billion rand. That in of itself is a telling story. Mr. President, ESCOM is not Shanduka. Mr. President, Glencore today is paid double the tariff rate for coal. Trafigura leads the fuel supply at PetroSA and other state entities. And guess what? There is pure silence. Mr. President, PetroSA is not Shanduka. Transnet, Mr. President, today has been experiencing dilapidating infrastructure since you took office. The ports are being privatized, and the nervous system of Transnet has been outsourced to your friends, being Bidvest. Mr. President, Transnet is not Shanduka.
I now invite the Honourable Thring.